The president's pick for Director of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has officially just been confirmed. The final tally was 52 to 48. It fell pretty much down party lines as expected. Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed joins us now live from Capitol Hill. And Nate, the one no vote from the Republican side of the House, Mitch McConnell, we know he is a polio survivor. So tell us more. Were you surprised the way the vote went? I know it was very controversial, or did things kind of fall in the way you expected them to?
Yeah, not terribly surprised, and in large part that's because many Republicans refused to indicate opposition to RFK Jr. It was clear to President Trump that he wanted this person in his cabinet. RFK Jr. endorsed him late in the campaign, dropped his own independent bid for the presidency. So this was, clearly a strategy by Donald Trump to try and push Republicans in his direction, in the direction of confirming RFK Jr., just making how clear it was for him a priority to get RFK Jr. Into the cabinet. And again, make America healthy again. MAHA is something that Trump ran on in the last couple of weeks of his campaign. But it's worth noting the one no vote here. Former Republican leader Mitch McConnell led Senate Republicans for 18 years, longest serving Senate party leader in American history, voting no, becoming the only Republican to oppose this nomination. He just put out a statement a couple moments ago. I'll read that for you now, Holly. He said, quote, "I'm a survivor of childhood polio. In my lifetime, I've watched vaccines save millions of lives from devastating diseases across America and around the world." He continues by saying, quote, "Kennedy has, quote, a record of trafficking in dangerous conspiracy theories and eroding trust in public health institutions. They do not entitle Mr. Kennedy to lead these important efforts." So again, Mitch McConnell becoming the only Senate Republican to oppose the confirmation of RFK Jr. He will now lead the Health and Human Services Department. That, of course, a major victory for President Donald Trump. Other Republicans largely going with President Trump's will, including some of the typical swing Republican voters like Senator Susan Collins, the Republican from Maine, Senator Lisa Murkowski, the Republican from Alaska, both issuing statements the last day or so saying that they'd be willing to support Mr. Kennedy's nomination after receiving certain assurances from him. Another possible swing vote, Senator Bill Cassidy, the Republican from Louisiana, a lifelong doctor before he came to the Senate, also said that his concerns were allayed after having multiple conversations with RFK Jr. He'd previously said that he was struggling to support RFK Jr., eventually coming around and voting in favor of confirming him. So, again, not a terribly surprising outcome here, given some of the public statements we've seen the last 48, 72 hours or so, and a little bit before that. But again, McConnell notable, bucking Republicans largely in these last several controversial nomination votes, including Tulsi Gabbard yesterday, who McConnell also voted against. Again, there are major questions about whether the former Senate Republican leader is going to seek another term. He's up for re-election in 2026. It's widely speculated that this could be his final term in the U.S. Senate. But he's really shown a clear independent streak here after leaving the leadership position and, making clear what he what he supports, what he doesn't support, and in a way aligning himself in some cases with the Senate Democrats who have tried to oppose many of Trump's nominees at every single term. McConnell taking a slightly less dramatic angle, not kind of engaging all of the opposition tactics the Democrats have taken, but certainly voting no on some of his highest profile nominees, certainly sending a message to the White House.
And Nate, you mentioned he may not seek another term in Congress. So do you think that this is because he's not going to seek re-election, so he can sort of go against Donald Trump a bit, where many other Republicans are trepidatious to go against what the president wants? What does this tell us that we're going to face for the next 4 years?
Well, the next 2 years, because it's just the next 2 years of McConnell's term, depending on whether he chooses to seek re-election or not in the midterm elections. But, I think what we're going to see is Republicans repeatedly kind of bending the knee to President Trump, taking assurances where they can get them, having these conversations behind the scenes, not in the public eye. You might remember in the first Trump administration that there was, kind of the constant churn of news from Capitol Hill of certain senators opposing some of Trump's picks. now, kind of with the grassroots support that he has from people like Elon Musk and other people who've kind of taken to online threatening individual senators. We saw this with Pete Hegseth. There were rumors that Senator Joni Ernst, the Republican of Iowa, could have opposed the Secretary of Defense's nomination. Ultimately, she voted in favor of him, again, after an intense pressure campaign online. And there's been some reporting out there that these senators are bristled by the amount of opposition that they're getting from, kind of grassroots supporters online, people calling their office. But again, it's very interesting to see that Republicans have kind of chosen to allow Trump who he wants in office to confirm. Democrats in the minority, a fairly, comfortable majority for Republicans in the Senate. Democrats are kind of powerless to sit by, oppose these nominations, push them out as far as possible. For example, RFK Jr. Could have received a vote far earlier had Democrats wanted to collaborate with Republicans. But again, there, as you can see here, a lot of questions about what Democrats can do to stop Republicans and the fact that Republicans largely voting in favor of Trump's nominees.
Yeah, it will be an interesting, like you said, 2 years and even 4 years as President Trump stays in office to see what happens depending on those midterm elections. And that's why we're so glad we always have you for that insight. Congressional correspondent Nate Reed for us. Thanks, Nate.